Welcome to this presentation on Module 12 of the Early Years Diploma course that's being delivered by London Bridge College in partnership with the K Academic College and the Rainbow Nursery staff. This short presentation will support you on the requirements that you need to fulfill for Module 12, the things that you need to do and give you some guidance on how you need to do them. So let's get started. It's Module 12 that we're looking at, which is application of early years practice. For Module 12, you have a workplace record book or an WPR, and your workplace record book is coloured yellow. It could be referred to as your yellow book. And in your yellow book, this is where you record all your evidence that will make up the requirements for fulfilling the learning for Module 12 and also the assessment for Module 12. In total, Module 12 is a 70-hour module. So you need to complete 70 hours of workplace learning in order to achieve Module 12. And that is evidenced in part through your workplace record book. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the things that are inside. So working with your workplace record book, it provides the evidence that you need to pass Module 12 of the course. You should keep it in your classroom in a magazine file, and you shouldn't take it home. Whenever you have a chance and an opportunity during the day, for example, when the children are sleeping or some other downtime, you can take out your yellow book and you can work on it. You can work on it weekly, if not daily. You complete the tasks as you're going along. Don't save up all the tasks until the end of the course. It must be finished. Your workplace record book must be finished by August in order for you to graduate the course on time. Okay, your progress will be checked regularly. And you should actually keep the document, the yellow book, confidential, because as part of your recording in it, it will actually have information that is confidential. You're going to have names of children in your observations. You're going to have records of your practice. So it should be treated as a confidential document. Okay, let's flick over to the next slide. So there's 9 core tasks to complete. The evidence in your yellow book links mainly to Module 12, but there is some crossover with other modules. For example, Module 3, which is about care and learning. So the 9 things that you need to do in your workplace record book are as follows. First, you need to write out an overview of your role and your responsibilities. What do you do in the classroom? What are your core roles, your responsibilities? Are you a key worker? What does that mean? What are your usual hours of work? That's the first thing that you do, provide an overview of your core roles and responsibilities. The second thing you do is there's a page for you to put a floor plan. You draw a floor plan of your classroom and the garden, and you show the different learning centres or learning areas as they're set out in the classroom or the garden. For example, the role play area, the home corner, the cozy corner, the book area, the eating area, the nappy changing or toileting zone. You draw it all out carefully and you label it. And then you actually have a reflection form, an evaluation form to reflect on how the classroom is laid out in the way that it is and why, anything that you think works particularly well or doesn't work, and the same for the garden. Okay, the third section of your booklet is your special needs snapshot, and that actually links to module 9, which is about special needs, and refer to module 9 for how to fill that in. I'm not going to go into any detail here. Number 4, this is the big fat section of your yellow book. This is the thing that is going to take most of your time and most of your attention in the yellow book. It is your reflective learning journal. You are to make 14 reflective journal entries where you reflect on your practice as a practitioner, and you make reference to the learning that you're doing as part of this diploma and how it impacts your practice. Because that is the fattest and juiciest part of the yellow book, there are actually some further slides in this presentation that are dedicated solely to that section. So hold that thought of your reflective journal for a few minutes, and we're going to come back round to that in just a few moments. The 5th section is your work-based observations and your feedback of practice. This is where your module 12 supervisor from the college will come out, and it will either be someone from K College or someone from London Bridge College who will come and observe you in the classroom. Okay, and you will have a minimum of 2 observations over the duration of the course. And there is a list of specific criteria that you will be observed on, and the observer will make a decision whether you have passed each of the criteria or not passed, or they will mark if it's not seen. And if it's not seen on the first observation, it must be seen and passed on the second observation. Again, that's also quite a juicy and important part of the booklet. So there are some dedicated slides in this very presentation that will look specifically at that. So again, hold that thought, and we're returning to it in just a few minutes. Section 6, displays. You need to do a display in your classroom, an interactive display, and you will need to take a photograph of your display, stick that in your yellow book. So print out the photograph, put it in your yellow book, and write an evaluation or an explanation of the display. But the instructions in the yellow book for that section are quite self-explanatory. So that is section 6. Section 7, you're required to do 5 activity plans and evaluations. So those are for planned activities, spontaneous activities, art activities, inside activities, outside activities, gross motor activities. There's a list in the book of exactly which activities you need to plan. You will then need to deliver those activities and write an evaluation on those activities. Okay. Section 8, you're required to undertake 3 child observations with an evaluation, and it should be for the same child. So if you have selected Miri as your child in the crocodiles class, then all 3 of your observations would be on Miri. You would do your evaluations on Miri's care and learning, what you observed, which early years milestones she's meeting, and you would also, for section 9, which is your final section, you would collect some of Miri's work and some photos of her in the nursery, and you would annotate those for the same child. Okay, and that is your 9 beautiful tasks that you need to complete in order to complete that yellow work-based learning book and to complete the requirements that you need for module 12. So, as promised, Let's come on to the reflective journal and see, ladies and gentlemen, what that is all about. Are you ready? So, that reflective journal. Let's take a dive in and think about what it means to reflect. Here we go. So reflect is to think in detail, to show or express, to contemplate, to mull something over, to look back on something, to write and think about the reasons why, to make focused connections between your practice and your understanding of theory. That is what it means to reflect. So in your reflective journal, you will consolidate and document your learning journey in relation to the 70 hours face-to-face work with children. Okay. And as part of that, what you should be doing is reflecting on the learning that you've done as part of the course in the taught modules and apply that to your 70 hours of face-to-face work with the children. Your learning journey, your reflective journal will consolidate those 70 hours and you will reflect on a minimum of 70 hours of face-to-face work with children. You will record tasks alongside your reflective process. The journal is mandatory. That means you have to do it. It is not optional. And it forms a major part of your final assessment for the entire course, as well as forming the assessment, obviously, for Module 12. Okay, so let's go through and think about some of the things that must be in your journal across these 14 different entries. These are some of the things that you must include. A description of your working context. Use the journal to describe the characteristics of the nursery and your class that you work in. Which age group? How does it work? Who are the children in there? What kind of needs have they got? What are their backgrounds? What are their cultural contexts? How do you weigh all that up in terms of what you do on a daily basis with them? Describe, comment, and reflect on the different activity centres or the different learning areas that are in and around your classroom. Discuss what kinds of activities you prefer to do at work and why. Identify and share the challenges that you encounter as part of your work and whether there's anything specific that you feel you need help or support on. So all of those things, that slide, those bullet points that are included in this slide here, that should form one of your reflective journal entries, can include these things. Another journal entry would focus on adult-child interactions. Observe the interactions between other practitioners in the room and the children and record those. Write about those in your journey. Watch a group of individual activities and focus on the quality of the relationships between the practitioner and the children. Record what you've seen, what you've heard, and what you've learned about this in your journal, and include your own reflections of the observations that you've made. This could include feelings, emotions, things that maybe could have been done differently, or things that should be preserved because they were excellent. So another one of your reflective journal entries would include a focus on adult-child interactions in your classroom. Another journal entry would include an observation analysis of food and snack time in your classroom. Focus on the feeding styles, independence, exposure to different tastes, communication and relationship building. Record your findings from a personal viewpoint. Consider what's effective in your classroom. How is it working well? How are the children supported? And what could be done more effectively to enhance or develop meal or snack times? You might also link to learning that you've done on the course in the health education module or the ITAS module that describes minimal, good and excellent practice at meal and snack times. So you can weave those elements of learning into your journal, but at least one of your journal entries should focus on meal and snack times. Another journal entry should focus on your morning meeting or your circle time. Reflect on the circle time or your morning meeting in your class. Record key information. How many children are there? What topics? What songs? What's the subject? What time does it take place? What staff are involved? How are the staff involved? How does the meeting start or open? What happens in the middle? How does the practitioners that are leading the circle time bring it to an end? Consider how effective the circle time or morning meeting was. Were there children that were engaged or not engaged? How relevant or meaningful was the experience for the children? And definitely record your own point of view, your feelings, your emotions, and draw conclusions. What could be improved and what could be done differently? Again, you can also link to any learning that you've done on the course that talks about morning meetings or circle times. Link to the ITAS rating, link to the story, songs and rhymes module about things that could be included. Were they included in the morning meetings or circle times that take place in your class? Okay. And another reflective journal entry should be on the theme of stories and books. Focus on how stories and books are arranged and presented and delivered in your classroom. How is the book corner or cozy corner arranged? How do the children engage with the books? Does it support their learning or development? What kind of relationships do the children develop with books? Are they respectful of them, for example? How and why? Can you give examples? Are there times where they're not respectful of the books? How or why can you give examples? How do the practitioners in the room support children's engagement with the books and literacy? What's the practitioner's role? How do they encourage, support, enhance, use language? Again, you might want to link to the ITAS ratings on how adults share books with children and how adults support children to use books independently. Do the practitioners read with groups or individual children? And how effectively are books shared? Think about your own experiences. Write in your reflective journal what you do. Think about the overall practice of the classroom and what could be done differently or better to meet the children's developmental needs more. Okay, so that should be one theme of one of your reflective journals. Of course, you may talk in more than one reflective journal about stories and books and rhymes, and that might come in other ways when you're just recounting a session, for example. But at least one of your reflective journal entries should have a focus on stories and books. Okay? You need to show throughout your reflective journal that you are applying your learning from the course. So in your journal, you should discuss where you've learned something on the course and you've been able to apply it in practice. How have you done that? Give examples of where you have applied your learning and how has it impacted the classroom? How has it supported the children's learning, development, and their experience within the classroom? So, to sum up, you need to include 15 entries relating to about 5 hours of work per entry. A range of different topics and reflections should be included across those 14 entries. So, for example, room arrangement, relationships, food, books, activities, interactions with parents and colleagues. Do build links between your training and what you've learned and your practice, and make sure that your reflective journal is not just descriptive, but reflective. Let's think about what that means. We're just going to go now on a little reflective practice tour and explore what it means to be reflective. Look at this sign. It's one of my favourite signs in the world. Stop and think. It kind of makes you stop and think, doesn't it? That is the essence of reflection. Here we go. A nice reflection flowchart. Experience, observe, reflect, plan. Experience, actions of the past and present. Observation, documenting what happened. Reflection, making sense. Investigating. Planning, making plans for the future to take further action or change the way that you're doing something. So think about this cycle in your reflective journals. Use this as a model. Having an experience, reviewing, which is the thinking, learning from the experience, planning, trying out what you've learned, having the experience. It's cyclical. Reflective practice is taking time to learn. Reflect, plan, act, observe, reflect, act, observe, reflect. Reflect, grow, examine, reflect, breathe. This is one of my slides. Reflective practice, the process of stepping back from an experience to support, to process what that experience means with a view to planning further. The critical link between a concrete experience, the interpretation, and taking new action. The key to learning as it reflection is the key to learning as it enables you to develop an ability to uncover and make explicit to yourself what you've planned to discover and achieve in your practice. Here's a really simple flowchart. In your reflective journals, record what happened, what was I thinking, what was I feeling, what else could I have done, what sense can I make of this, what was good, what was bad, what was ugly about this, what have I learned to do differently. Follow effective action with quiet reflection. From the quiet reflection will come even more effective action. Reflective practice is an approach that enables professionals to understand how they use their knowledge in practical situations and how they combine action and learning in a more effective way. I think about how I can improve. This is a core theme that should run through your reflective journal. Capture the moment in your reflective journal. Reflect on it after. Set goals for next time. Experiencing, which is about immerging yourself. Reflection, what did you notice? Number 3 is missing. And number 4, planning what you will do next and what you want to change for the future. You see the common themes here threading through these slides. Okay, here's another reflective practice cyclical diagram. Okay, we can start anywhere. Let's start at the top. Description, what happened? Feelings, what were you feeling and thinking? Evaluation, what was good, what was bad? Analysis, what sense can you make of what happened? Conclusion, what else could be done? Action plan, if the same situation happened again, what could I do? And one of the things that you could do in your reflective journal is you could use some of the headings from these slides to just put the heading, description, what happened. Write your description and what happened. Feelings, write your feelings. Evaluation, write your evaluation. So you can use these headings to support and guide you when you are recording your reflective journals. Benefits of reflection: increased learning, promotion of deep learning, identification of personal and professional strengths, but also areas for improvement, thinking about educational needs, and acquisition of new skills and knowledge. This is what comes from reflective practice. Okay, so we're done with that. We're now moving on to observing your practice. This is where someone from either K College or London Bridge College will come to observe you and observe your practice. You will have 2 observations over the course of the program, lasting around 45 minutes, more or less. You will get a 15-minute plus minus feedback session afterwards, where the observer, the supervisor, will give you feedback on your practice, how it went, and they'll ask for your reflection as well. How did you think today's observation went? Tell me about what I saw. Is this a typical day? Observations were originally planned to take place on Thursday mornings. That is no longer the case. They are taking place over a week's period in Pesach and a week's period in August. Okay, and there are 35 criteria to be met. We're going to have a look at those criteria. Okay, the criteria have been split into 4 categories: care routines and hygiene, transitions, supporting learning and development, relationships. They're the 4 categories that the observation has been split into, and these are the 8 criteria that are part of the care routine and hygiene. For example, you have to show that you wash your hands appropriately during the session. That's 1.2. 1.4, cleaning up from a meal or a snack time, ensuring that areas are left clean and hygienic, supporting children to fall asleep, etc. These are the things that the observer is going to be looking for. In section 2, which is transitions, they're just looking for 4 things: how you welcome the children at the beginning of the session. That might be at the beginning of the day, or it might be at the beginning of an activity. How you welcome children who have transitioned from one thing to the next. Getting children ready to go home and having contact with parents. Support children to move comfortably around the building and to the outside space, and tidying up and arranging resources according to the classroom plan. They're the 4 things that you need to demonstrate to your observation supervisor that you can do. Okay, supporting learning. This is the biggest and the fattest, with 15 things on here. You need to do all of these 15 things. Sing action songs or rhymes with individual children. Sing action songs or rhymes with a group. Share stories and books with individual children. Share stories and books with a group. lead a circle time, lead an adult-led sensory activity, support unstructured play in the garden, lead a planned or organised game or activity in the garden, undertake a planned or spontaneous maths-based learning activity, lead an adult-led dance or movement sesh inside, lead an adult-led creative art activity inside, support children's problem-solving skills. So, for example, doing puzzles with children, matching games, cognitive development, support block or construction play, set up a classroom with a range of resources in a child-centered way. So you have to do a setup and take part or support role play or pretend play. That can also be small world. Those are the things that you need to do for section 3. Okay, and finally, section 4, you've got these 8 criteria, and it's about relationships with children, relationships with parents, and relationships with colleagues. So, for example, the last thing here is support other colleagues when they need help or assistance. That could be as simple as passing them a wipe when they need to blow someone's nose, to calling an ambulance when someone's had an accident, helping them out at an activity. It could be anything, any type of support. But that's what your supervisor is looking for, that you work with your colleagues in a supportive way. This is what the observation checklist looks like. So we can see the first 3 criteria there, and the observer will tick pass, not passed, or not seen, and they will include a comment. This is the point, if it was a real live session, which it was at some point, we will ask you if you've got any questions, and we would go ahead and answer them. As it's not a live session, we can't do that, but we would ask you to reach out to the course team with any questions that you have. Thank you for listening to me for the last 32 minutes. I hope that it has been worth your while, and that you now know and understand what is required from you for Module 12.